one. Weird seeing you in blue, as I said. But what's it been like? Working for the Bulls, team you competed against for many a year in various guises at the Sharks. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, when you've been at a franchise for 15 years, it is going to be different, especially changing your kit every morning, used to being in black and white. But my time here over the last 3 weeks has really been enjoyable. The staff have welcomed me in. They've made me feel at home. Fortunately, I am familiar with Pretoria, having served my national service here, although that was many years ago. But yes, Jake gave me the call, and I didn't hesitate to accept the opportunity. It's a great opportunity for me to get back into coaching, and at the same time learn different things and experience a different environment. And like I said, I'm really enjoying my stay so far.
How did it come about? Was it just a simple phone call, and what is the exact role that you'll be playing in the sports team?
Yes, initially, back in December, Jake called me, but at that time I wasn't ready for the move yet. And then Jake called me about a week before I joined, and he said, there is an opportunity in a different area, and that would be defence and breakdown, and would I be keen to do it? And for me, I thought about it, and it's good for me to get back in the saddle and coach again. I thoroughly enjoy what I do. I know there's pressure in these jobs, but the joy of working with youngsters and developing them is my drive. So those are the areas of responsibility I'll be covering during the Currie Cup. Working with experienced guy like Gert, who's also good, and then obviously a new face in the Currie Cup as head coach Edgar, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, just on your relationship with Jake, you obviously adversaries for quite a few seasons, but did you always maintain a cordial or good relationship with Jake?
Yes, Jake and I go back many years ago. We knew each other before he arrived at the Sharks when I was there as an assistant, and we had a very good year together at the Sharks. From there he moved on, and he moved on to bigger places. He went to Montpellier, and he's learned a lot from there, and he's got a lot of experience. But we've always remained in contact. When Jake was in Japan, there was times when I would phone him and ask him for advice on certain things, and he's always been there to help me. So it's great that we can renew our partnership again. I respect him as a coach. He's one of the best coaches in the world, and it's great just to be working with him again.
Yeah, and you obviously had your to and fro's with the Bulls, famously the Currie Cup finals, but also some heated battles in the URC. You got I think one win where Lucanio scored that wonder try here at Loftus, so you're probably beginning to turn some of that Loftus tide around your way. You were unbeaten at Kings Park, if my memory is correct, against the Bulls. So, joining a rival, having had that heat of battle, what was it like when you walked through these corridors?
Yeah, it's quite strange, when you've worked with someone and then you coach against them. And obviously Jake's had a very successful coaching career. But my times at the Sharks, we did give him a hard time on the field. And I think the game that sticks out for me is the Currie Cup final when it went into extra time. Unfortunately at that stage the Sharks lost that game by a point, but the Bulls deserved that victory, and then it carried on. The tussles carried on. 2 Currie Cup finals, like I said, the one that was close, and then the other one which the players reminded me of the other day, where they hammered us at the end of 21. So yes, it's always interesting, but it's a great challenge. When you're coaching again, it's the guy that's won a World Cup, but at the same time, always humble in victory and humble in defeat.
Yeah. What have you learned so far of the Bulls and how they've made themselves successful? A lot of people didn't think they'd make the URC playoffs. Got a home playoff, ended up being in the final, beating Leinster away, in Dublin, which was you think about it, they're unbeaten 15 this year. What have you gleaned from their systems?
Yeah, well, I was also involved in the junior systems at the Sharks for many years, in the junior age groups, under 19s, under 20s and under 21s, and the Bulls are always formidable at that age group level. So the depth here is really good, and I think a lot of people admire it. You know, you've got Tucky's here, which is a big university. It's a massive draw card for youngsters to come to Pretoria, and the systems that are in place here obviously make it to be a success. And you know, from when Jake came in, you know, he pretty much turned the Bulls around instantaneously. And I think it's just a proud union with a lot of tradition. You know, they've won 25 Currie Cups, they've won 4 Super Rugby titles. So the expectation from the general public around Pretoria is to win. And you know, that does bring pressure to the coaching staff and obviously the management and the CEO like Edgar as well. But that's part of sport, and I think the Bulls have embraced that. They're very proud, the players, and you know, they want to do as well as they can for this union, and I think that's something that stands out for me. The guys want to win. When things don't go their way, you know, they hurt a tremendous amount because it means so much to them. But generally, you know, if you look at the coaching staff as a whole, you know, you've got Jake at the top as director of rugby, you know, who's got a very good relationship with Edgar Rathbone, and that's really a relationship which brings success. And then underneath that, you've got experienced coaches, you know. And I mentioned Gert earlier, but Gert's an international rugby coach as well, you know, and he works with all the teams, and he brings his expertise to everyone, but not only to the players but to the coaches as well. And then you've got guys like Pan, Nollis, you know, have headed up senior rugby campaigns here at the Bulls that are also very, very proud. A guy like Chris Rousseau now who's gathered a lot of experience and doing well from an attack perspective. So it's a settled coaching staff. I'm the only new face coming in, and I will certainly try my best to emulate what they're trying to achieve, and that's by winning the Currie Cup.
Yeah, and just, you know, it's a huge change for you. I mean, you spent 15 years at the Sharks, as we all know. That couldn't have been easy, you know, to leave it behind. But when you look back at your time, especially the time where you coached the senior team from I guess 2019's Currie Cup, but to Super Rugby 2020 and beyond, what do you look back on? Is it fondness? Are you proud of what you did, the players you unearthed, and the kind of rugby you guys played at times, which was some of the best in South Africa? Yeah, very much so. I think, you know, I took over at a difficult time. A lot of the players at the Sharks, senior players at the Sharks, had decided to part ways and continue their careers abroad, and that's what happens in you know, professional sport. It's the nature of the game. So it was challenging for us, and I thought we came through with flying colours, especially if you look back at the 2020 Super Rugby campaign before COVID hit. The guys playing really well, and then obviously there were disruptions thereafter. You know, the British and Irish Lions, and then COVID, living in bubbles, having games called off. So it was quite a stressful time in a way, but challenging, and I think we all got through that pretty well. I'm talking about all the franchises as well. But I think to go back to the Sharks, is you build special relationships, and you know, one of the points under my philosophy is that, you know, I want to hold good relationships with the players because we want to create an environment of learning, and to be able to create that environment of learning, you know, you have to have trust, and there's got to be honesty. So that's something that you build over years. So the personal relationships from a day-to-day basis you miss. But you know, I am in contact with some of the players. We've gone through a lot together, and those relationships, and that's the beauty of sport, will last forever. Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, having worked right from the very bottom of the food chain, you know, working with players like Pat Lambie and right up to Cohen and those guys, and just as a coaching career as a whole, are you proud of what you've done? Former school teacher, you know, gone on to make a name for himself. Yeah, I'm very proud for what we achieved and what I achieved at the Sharks, and it's never been about me. I've enjoyed, like I said, helping players develop and youngsters grow into adults, because you're not only there to grow the rugby, but you're there to grow people. You know, the juniors that are coming through now at the Sharks, like Pepsi Buthelezi, Fez Mbata,
Sanele, who was with us and left. There's a lot of those guys that are now playing senior rugby, and I take a lot of pride in that. Here at the Bulls, I'm really looking forward to renewing a relationship with Marcel Coetzee, because I coached him, at under 19, and he came from a small school in Durban and didn't know much about rugby. So obviously his achievements have made me proud. And I know what a hard worker he is, and I know how passionate he is about the Bulls. And we all know what he's achieved, since he's returned to the Bulls, because he's a competitive person. So those are the things that I look back on, watching a young Pat Lambie come into the Sharks and leaving as a 50-test Springbok is really good. I'm not saying that I made him. There's been a lot of people that have influenced his career, but you build relationships with those people, and I just am so lucky to have dealt with players that are just really good human beings, and not only rugby players. And I think that's what stands out for me more than anything else.
What was the ingredient in the way you played, especially in 2020? I think a lot of people look back on that, but there were times as well, like I said, coming here to the Bulls, that game where Lucanio Arm did some amazing things, where you replicated that to that 2020 style. Were you playing with more freedom, less expectation?
Yes, when I took over the Sharks, it was a new team, and we also had a path for the youngsters. So a lot of those young guys had an opportunity. You have to look at what you have, and then you've got to decide how you're going to play. And we changed the way we wanted to play. We lost big loose forwards and really good loose forwards like a Dan Dupree and Jean-Luc Dupree, the twins, and then you add to that guys like Philip van der Walt, Akker van der Merwe, Connie Oosthuys, and the list goes on. So you have to find a way, and we moved our game model to more of a transition phase because we did have athletes in certain positions. We had pretty much a Springbok backline as well. At the back we had young Apelele, who came through at fullback in that year and did exceptionally well for us. And then around the youngsters, we had senior players like Louis Schroeder at the time, and obviously Andre Esthuizen, who's now playing probably the best rugby of his life. So we were quite a well-balanced outfit. And when you have those senior guys around, you're able to give them more freedom. We wanted the guys to enjoy what they were doing. We wanted to play a brand of rugby that the spectators enjoyed watching. But yeah, it's a pity that obviously when COVID came, there were a lot of disruptions, there was a lot of uncertainty, and then, players tend to move on, and, and that's just the nature of the game. You've got to go where you're going to have security and where you're going to get opportunity. But even though post-2020, I mean, we did play some really good rugby, which you have mentioned, and it's always easy to say, players make coaches. It's true in a sense, but the challenge for us and the pleasure and the reward that we get is watching these youngsters come through into the senior level, which they have, especially if you look at a guy like Dylan Richardson, who came from under 19 in 2018 to becoming a Scottish international, and he's just grown from strength to strength. Unfortunately, injuries have hampered him lately, but he's an international player now, and Pepsi Buthelezi is captaining the Sharks in the URC. So, yeah, I think that the Sharks are in a better space now than from when I started in 2019. So that's great for me, and I look back at that as a massive positive.
Was there any sadness when it came to an end?
Yeah, I think that's just normal. You as a coach, that your time is numbered, and that's just the nature of the game. Fortunately, I've been very lucky and fortunate to have spent so many years in one franchise. But it's also great to move on, get out of your comfort zone, experience new environment, experience new ideas, learn new systems. When you're a head coach, it's easy. You put the systems in place, you know exactly what you're doing, and you understand everything. You understand the why you're doing certain things. And now I've got to come in as a school pupil, and I've got to learn again, because the teams are going to be integrating between two competitions. So it's really important for us as a coaching staff that we remain constant in the systems that we're implementing from week to week with the different teams. So I'll use this opportunity to grow and learn from my colleagues and from the players, because I enjoy the player input. You've got a Morné Steyn here who's played 150 international franchise games. So, you know, that's massive for me. He's a good person. He's got some great ideas as well. And yeah, hopefully my stint here just makes me a better person and a better coach.
Yeah, final one for me. How far can this Bulls team go? You know, they've lose players just like the rest of the South African teams do year on year. I mean, Marcel's taken a stint in Japan, but he'll be back. Big leader. In some ways, you'll say that the Bulls miss him. Of course, a great loose forward who can play all across the back row. But a lot of young players, young leader in Ruan Okia, Sibungosi, who's come back, looks refreshed, scored back-to-back tries. When you look at the different little pieces that the Bulls have, how far do you think the franchise can go this season or maybe the next as well?
Yeah, so you know, there's always going to be dips in form, you know, from team to team. We've seen that with the Sharks, we've seen it with the Lions recently, and obviously with the Bulls. But you know, that's not permanent. So the players will bounce back from that, like the Lions did on the weekend and the week before against Glasgow. I think if you look at the squad as a whole, there's a good mixture between young and senior players, and for me it's important that the seniors pass their knowledge on to the juniors to bring them up to speed as quickly as possible. When you mention a guy like Ruan Okia, you know, he's a new leader in the team. He certainly wears his heart on his sleeve. You know, he's a fantastic rugby player and he's got a lot of respect from the players. Yeah, but then obviously around Ruan, you've got guys like Marco van Staden, who everyone feels has been around for years and years, but you know, he's only 27, 28 years old. So he's got a lot to offer. You know, the Nines are young as well, and they've got a lot to offer. And the next generation is coming through. So, you know, as you build a squad together, you wouldn't want the transition to be that big between juniors and seniors. But the Bulls have been on a crest of the wave for the last 3 years, and it's time to bring the youngsters through. And sometimes when you do that, as a coach, you bleed a little bit. But that's the sacrifices you have to make to keep the system flowing, because it's better to select players within the system than buy players in. Obviously, you know, in certain positions that you might not have, it is necessary to buy players in, but it's certainly good that you bring players through the system that know the culture, and at the end of the day that builds cohesion.
Thanks so much, Ron. Really appreciate the chat, and yeah,
no, it's a pleasure.
In your new Bulls career.
No, thank you very much, Sabi. Thank you.